So what are the different ways that you raise money for Live Like Bella?
Oh, man. So we have our infamous Bella's Ball. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. It's September 14th of this year.
Save the date, y'all.
Save the date.
Save the date, y'all.
Talent, time, or treasure, man. I don't want to hear no because I didn't want to buy a ticket.
Or
We'll
no,
come
porque
volunteer.
tú sabes, I had the
There's something.
thing.
I will
Yeah,
find
yeah.
something for you to do. So we raised money. Bella's Ball is a very large fundraiser for us. Our superhero 5K that was this
Right,
past
just
month
passed, yeah.
in February, which thank you so much for all of your
No,
support
no,
there.
no.
We had so
Sin
much
duda,
fun with
it
you
was a
guys,
lot
man.
of
You guys
fun.
were awesome.
Listen, shout out to Chris, shout out to Ann, and
Dude.
Ethel, without a doubt, for always making it happen. It was great.
It was
I had a lot of
awesome.
fun. We saw elephants, we saw rhinos, we saw lions. It was really cool. Running through the zoo. I mean, I walked.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
definitely
didn't do
not
it at
run.
all, but
I did not run.
no, but no, the real superheroes there, man, is the kids because we had
Yeah.
almost 2,000 runners at
Dude,
the
I saw
at the
it,
5K.
and everybody was like stretching, running it out. I mean,
Yeah.
like I it was a lot of people. I'll
There's
be
a lot of
honest.
people, and I think the
Like,
most important people there were the real superheroes, right? Because we have a lot of cancer fighters and survivors that
Right,
are
right.
there. So that was particularly cool. And we had runners all over the world accompanying them because if you weren't in town, you could register as a virtual walker. And we had a team in
Right. I remember
California,
seeing
we
that.
had one in North Carolina, one
Yeah, I
in
saw a bunch of cameras
in
just
North
like going
Carolina,
with
yeah,
it. Yeah.
we had a virtual run there. So those are two large fundraisers for us in terms of events. The City of Miami, very graciously, City of Miami Police and the Bella wanted to be a police officer. Sort of
Okay.
side note here,
Right.
that was her dream. So the City of Miami Police has always done this incredible bike ride for us. That they've had riders go from Miami to Orlando. I think this year
Oh,
they're
that's
going
far.
to Key West. So that's another very important thing. And we have corporate partners and
Yeah, that's what I'm
sponsors
saying.
throughout
You
the
had
year.
a lot of like actual like schools, companies, and
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of the time, I think I interviewed a guy. He was just like, "Yeah, I'm like an accountant or something," and like we just come out because we just love the cause.
Yeah,
and it was
we've
super
been-
local, super. Do you think it's hard to build those community relationships?
You know, we've been very blessed, right? So when you say, do I think it's hard? I mean, I think in general, all relationships require cultivation, but we've been blessed.
Right.
And some of that stuff, you know, I say sometimes I'll be like, you know, Bella's busy today because this dropped from the sky. And then another thing, you know, is we have a team that really works very hard to establish good corporate partnerships because when, just the same way that, you know, we want to make sure that when donors have trusted us to make a donation, that we're
Right.
using those funds
Accurately
the
and
way properly, the way that we said we would. So I think that anytime that, you know, from a corporate standpoint, whether you gave us $1 or whether a company gave us $100,000, that they know that those donations and those partnerships are going to the right place, which is ultimately what we're here to do.
What are some of the sponsorships that you have that with like Bella?
Oh man, I can't go down that list because I miss somebody, right?
No, they're gonna be mad at you.
There
No,
are
no,
so
no.
many beautiful people that help us. Some of our corporate partnerships, I mean, gosh, there's been so many, but I'll give you an example of one in particular. Bean Automotive Group, that's home to Lexus of Kendall, Lexus of West Kendall, Kendall Toyota,
Okay.
and West Kendall Toyota. They're the largest single donor to Live Like Bella in the
Okay.
history
Like
of the
one
foundation.
entity.
One entity, and I share them in particular, and I think that they reflect the values of a lot of our donors, if not all of them, that they haven't just cut a check, right? Like speaking of chapas, at all of those 4 dealerships, all of the license plate frames say "Live Like Bella," you know,
Right.
be Lexus of Kendall, and then "Live Like Bella." When you go pick up your car for service, they have a hang tag there that talks about their commitment to the foundation.
Oh wow.
So it wasn't just like a marketing campaign. It was like, you know what?
Like
Let's
an
talk
actual
about the mission.
relationship.
Let's talk about the why. And you know,
The
I
why.
like to talk about
Right.
the
Talk to us about the why.
Talk about the why. No, we can have a podcast. I'll talk for hours about this because I really love the work that we're doing. But it's very easy for us to talk about what we do and how we do it, right? You've asked me, you know, what does Live Like Bella do? How do you guys raise money? But I'd be remiss if I didn't make sure that we start these conversations with why do we do it? Because a lot of people can do the very same thing and not remember why they're there. And we talk about it. Ethel, who is our dear friend in common and who's on my team, she calls it to the little board, right? Like there's the board of directors and there's the little board. And by little board, we have a conference room at the office. Some offices were donated to us in the middle of Coral Gables, which is huge because we don't pay any rent, we don't do anything. And there's
That's
a
honestly
conference
awesome
table.
because then you have a place to meet, you have a place to gather.
Oh yeah, it was a
and that's
game
like the first
changer.
stop, yeah.
Yeah. So when we look around the conference room, there's 6 seats there, and I'm like, guys, when we go to work, picture that seat right here next to you. There's a 6-year-old there who's counting on your support, and that's who you report into. That's your why. We're not here because we have to do something a certain way, and we have to remember why we're here, and it's these children that we are really committed to serving in the best way possible.
Do you think it's easier, not easier, but do you think that adult cancer research gets more funding than pediatric?
Yeah,
Is this more
adult-
common, or?
Yeah, I think they do definitely get more funding. Pediatric cancer research in the United States receives about 4% of the National Cancer Institute budget on cancer, which is, you'll look at a lot of social media and you hear a lot of people hashtag more than 4. I think that proportionately speaking, the number of years of life lost on a child compared to the number of years lost on an adult,
I know what you're saying, that the fact
you're
that.
saying like if a 5-year-old gets cancer and passes away, if the lifespan of that child would have been 80 years old,
Yeah.
you're talking
There's
about
also a
loss.
statistic that kids that get cancer and survive are going to be more prone to getting any other
yeah.
disease after the fact, before they're 45 or something.
Well,
like that.
some of the research I think is very important, not just on treating the cancer now, but what are indeed the after effects. Children who, that's why you look at, for example, proton radiation. The Live Like Bella proton radiation program at the Miami Cancer Institute. Miami Cancer Institute is part of the Baptist Health system here in South Florida, and it's an alliance with Memorial Sloan Kettering. And the pediatric proton radiation program there, we had the privilege to fund. And proton radiation, right? For those of you who don't know what that is,
Yeah, it's
'cause
really scientific.
I
I
know
want
it's
you to
really
understand that.
scientific.
Yeah, yeah.
I won't nerd out on you because I'm
No,
not.
please,
I
that's the whole
don't know
point.
enough nerd stuff. But
Okay.
it's a proton radiation where the radiation goes very specifically to the spot that it
Where
is
it's
needed
located.
versus where it's located versus having any side effects of the radiation going to places that is unnecessary.
Right, because then the radiation is going to affect
Correct.
negatively. Understood.
Exactly. So we are privileged to be on the front lines with that kind of technology.
Exactly.
Dr. Matthew Hall, who runs that program down here in South Florida, together with Nicholas Children's Hospital, we work very, very closely with them to make sure that children have access to this kind of treatment, and that we can make sure that they are receiving the very best that technology has to offer right
So
now.
what I'm getting is that there's a lot of collaboration
Yeah, there sure
between, obviously, Live Like Bella, the organization, the actual research, and then you reaching out to the families that you're helping out with the in-service.
Absolutely.
And then the community donors or just anybody who's involved.
Yep,
So it's
takes a
real
village,
360.
man. It takes a village.
Yeah.
There's a lot of collaboration, and there's another great quote that it's amazing what one can accomplish if nobody cares who gets the credit, and if we can all sort of play in the sandbox together, right? Because there's a lot of different people working on the same thing. If it doesn't matter if it was Live Like Bella, if it was Memorial Sloan
Or
Kettering, if
another
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're completely hospital agnostic and university agnostic. We'll work with anybody. I mean, anybody who's doing the best of the best and who wants to come together and make sure that we're serving the same population. Collaboration is key.
So the funding that you do get, what aspects go to it? Like what percentage it goes to research, what goes to the in-services, or what's you know what I mean? Like what?
It changes. It varies year on year. I mean, from a research standpoint, the state of Florida created the Live Like Bella initiative, which that funds in perpetuity $3 million a year to conduct child cancer research in Florida.
And that's for universities, any research
Anybody who's
centers?
conducting research in the state of Florida can apply for the grant.
Okay.
It's administered through the Department of Health. And we have a seat at the big kids table, is what I like to call
Big
it, to
kids
see
table, I
what's
like
going
that.
on.
Yeah.
To see what's going on. And so on the research side in Florida specifically, there's that. I mean, the funds that we allocate for research vary year on year depending on the kind of proposals that we get for people who are doing research.
Right, from the
So we'll
actual
have
place.
organizations that'll come to us and say, hey, Live Like Bella, we have this idea, we want to conduct this study, it's going to cost X amount of money. And then we sit down and say, okay, is this a scientifically meritorious,
Right, and
project?
follow the criteria.
We have a scientific advisory board that reviews it. But it varies year on year. I mean, the in-treatment support specifically has skyrocketed in the last 3 years. I mean, if you look at like just paperwork, right? The folders that we originally had were, like one manila envelope, but now it's like 5 binders, right? So most of the funds that we're raising directly right now are going to in-treatment support and to memorial support. And then on the research side, we're working
Right.
more right now with state entities to make sure that we can fund research on
Okay.
that side as well.
So then the funds that you raise through through the ball, or through I guess more like active means, Those are the ones that go for the in-services.
Yeah, the in-treatment support. Those are
Awesome.
the ones that I
So
was
that's like the
talking about.
bulk of what you use.
In-treatment and then memorial support, that if a child passes away, we're able to pay tribute
Yeah,
to their
so you do a
life.
more direct impact, like right away,
We sure
with
do.
those funds.
We sure do.
Okay,
I call it like farm to table, you know, como está de moda,
yeah, I know you're,
farm to table.
yeah, going to one
That,
of those
like,
markets.
it comes in and it goes right out.
Straight
We're
to
not
them.
meant to be a bank account there with the money sitting there. The money needs to go to the families.